Grab a slice of your favorite comfort food and settle into your snuggliest blanket, because we're about to dive into some chilling Craigslist encounters that are straight out of the Twilight Zone. On days like today, when I'm feeling a bit zonked out and everything seems just a shade too surreal, sharing stories like these seems like the perfect way to anchor myself. We'll explore the eerie, the unexpected, and the downright creepy side of everyday online transactions. These tales, each more spine-tingling than the last, highlight those moments when a simple click on Craigslist leads to encounters that are anything but ordinary. It's a wild ride through the shadows where bargains meet their mysterious match. So, brace yourself for some true horror stories from the depths of Craigslist. Proof that life's everyday rhythms sometimes skip a beat and leave us clinging to the edge of our seats. Let's embark on this eerie adventure together, shall we? Story 1: Echoes of Yesterday. There's something unsettling about the unexpected, especially when it echoes back to fragments of your past. It's been months. I've lost track at this point. My world quietly fractured when my boyfriend decided we needed to part ways. Life, however, has a curious way of weaving old threads into new patterns. Just as I was learning to find solace in the muted hum of coffee shop life, where the steamed hiss of espresso machines and the soft murmur of strangers provided a backdrop for my freelance work, he reached out again. His sudden desire to reconnect, to see me and our dog, who he wondered might remember him, stirred a whirlpool of emotions I thought I had navigated past. Why now? And under what unspoken terms was this reunion being orchestrated? Amidst this personal tumult, another episode unfolded, one that echoed the unpredictable nature of Craigslist dealings, but with a far more ominous undertone. A few weeks prior, I had decided to sell my car on Craigslist. It was a straightforward post with photographs taken at a relative's house to obscure any direct links back to my own address, a precaution against the unpredictable. Late one night, as I returned from a long drive from the Mayo Clinic, where my mom had finally undergone a long put-off surgery, my phone erupted with a call. It was 11:30 p.m. On the other end, a man's voice, eager and probing about the car. Exhausted, I curtly advised him to call back at a more reasonable hour. The relief of my mother's successful surgery was still fresh, her grateful smile a balm to the weariness that enveloped me, making the late intrusion all the more jarring. The next morning, as Saturday dawned with a list of errands mirroring a semblance of normalcy, the man from the night before re-emerged, not just through multiple calls, but in a more tangible, disturbing manner. He left messages, each one more desperate than the last, and somehow he had managed to take a bus from 2 municipalities over, hunting for our home without ever having received the address. His persistence was unnerving. The calls, traced back to various payphones, escalated in frequency. We returned home to find 11 missed calls, a mix of abrupt hang-ups and frantic pleas to view the car. The invasion of my privacy felt like a slow, creeping fog, chilling and unrelenting. That evening, as fate would have it, another potential buyer expressed interest. This one, a polite Iranian gentleman, offered a simple transaction that didn't warrant negotiation. Relieved, we sold the car immediately, eager to close this chapter and sever the connection to the first unsettling prospect. Informing the persistent caller that the car was no longer available felt like drawing a line through an unwelcome ghost from a story best left untold. Yet, as I prepared for the impending meeting with my ex, I couldn't help but draw parallels between the unpredictable nature of human connections, whether through the anonymous digital threads of an online marketplace or the intimate entanglements of past relationships. The echo of the phone calls, the relief of my mother's recovery, and the anxiety of a reunion, all these threads wove a tapestry of current life, a reminder that both people and events from our pasts often resurface in unexpected ways, challenging us to confront them anew. Story 2: Chords of Change. Life has a way of forcing us to face our fears, often in ways we least expect. After a heart-wrenching loss in my family, I found myself staring down at the instruments that had once been my closest confidants, the piano keys and guitar strings that now seemed almost menacing. The fear that my passion for music had been irretrievably lost with the departure of someone so close to me was overwhelming. But this past weekend, in a burst of newfound determination, sparked by the shifts I've been trying to make in my life, I finally sat down and let the music flow through me again. In my neighborhood, where the hum of bicycle wheels is as constant as the rhythm of a metronome, I've been slowly rebuilding my life, from volunteering at a local nursing home to absorbing the vibrant energy of children in my new babysitting gigs. Each step has been a note in the symphony of recovery. I've been channeling this renewal not just into my music, but into exploring new environments, making each visit to a different coffee shop a fresh verse in my ongoing composition. Amidst this backdrop of personal renewal, I encountered a reminder of life's unpredictability, not in a melody, but in the sale of my Harley-Davidson Fat Boy. It was an exchange steeped in the usual rhythms of Craigslist transactions, where trust plays in tandem with caution. The buyer, a robust man with a macho air, presented a bank draft for half the money and the rest in cash. We completed the necessary paperwork, the transaction unfolding with the regularity of a well-practiced song. But as we moved to load the heavy bike into his pickup truck, the day took a discordant turn. He pulled a long 10-foot plank from his truck, determined to ride the Harley up into the 8-foot box. Despite my warnings that this seemed a perilous idea, he laughed it off with a bravado that reminded me of the boldness one sometimes needs to strike up a new tune or face old fears. "Watch me," he declared, an echo of defiance against the cautious chords I had struck. He mounted the bike, and with a rev of the engine, he began his ascent. But as he reached 2/3 of the way up, the bike faltered for lack of gas and momentum. Time seemed to slow as both he and the bike tipped over, crashing down in a cacophony of metal and expletives. The Harley landed heavily on him, and he was soon rushed to the hospital with serious injuries, leaving the bike damaged and the scene chaotic. A few hours later, 3 of his friends arrived, their presence as large and imposing as the fallen bike. They loaded the Harley into the truck and departed, leaving me amidst the quiet aftermath, the shock of the event still resonating like a lingering bass note. As I watched them drive away, the payment secured in my pocket brought little comfort compared to the jarring reminder of how quickly situations can spiral out of control. This incident, while distant from the melodies of my music and the personal growth I was nurturing, underscored the unpredictability of life, echoing the very lessons I was learning through my recovery and renewal. In this new chapter, as I face the complexities of rekindling old passions and forging new paths, I carry with me the understanding that both life and music require a readiness to adapt to the unexpected, turning dissonance into harmony wherever possible. Story 3, The Phantom Exchange. It happened a few years back, during an autumn that whispered with the chill of approaching winter. My heart was set on acquiring a new iPhone 8, and after scouring the depths of Craigslist, I stumbled upon what seemed like a steal, $800 for a sleek, nearly new model. We agreed to meet by a Tim Hortons near Brentwood, a location bustling enough to silence any lurking doubts about the deal. My girlfriend drove me there, her presence a comforting buffer against the unpredictable wilds of internet deals. As we approached the designated spot, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, muscular silhouette topped with a black cap that shrouded his face in mystery. A faint red flag fluttering in the back of my mind. I stepped out of the car, the crisp air biting at my cheeks, and greeted him. A sense of unease nibbled at me as I suggested we step inside Tim Hortons to finalize the transaction. He hesitated, his voice a low rumble of reluctance, wishing to conclude the deal swiftly. A second, more vibrant flag unfurled itself in my consciousness. Inside, the cafe hummed with the warmth of steamed milk and baked goods, a stark contrast to the chill I felt emanating from the man beside me. I examined the phone with an eagerness tempered by caution. It seemed flawless at first glance, urging me to dismiss the earlier disquiet. Yet, as he urged me to hurry, citing a need to return to his children, a third flag rose, stark and foreboding. My fingers danced across the interface, and that's when the uncanny began to seep through. The font on the screen was subtly incorrect, each letter a caricature of Apple's usual sleek typesetting. The device responded sluggishly, a shadow of the real iPhone's swift elegance. When I opened the camera, the interface was off, its layout an awkward imitation of the familiar iOS. I pressed the home button, returning to the main screen, and there it was, an icon so blatantly alien on an iPhone screen, a green robot smirking up at me from the grid of apps. My heart sank as the reality of the deception fully dawned on me. We left the warmth of Tim Hortons and the deal behind. My girlfriend and I drove home in a silence that was heavy with the echo of what might have been a disastrous $800 mistake. Later, hunched over my computer, the soft glow of the screen illuminating my dawning horror, I uncovered articles detailing a spree of scams involving iPhone clones. These counterfeits, peddled as the real deal, had fooled many unwary buyers. The man with the black cap was no amateur. He was a phantom in the bustling crowd, a specter preying on the hopeful and the hasty. Who knew how many others had fallen victim to his ploy? That day, I had danced on the edge of a financial abyss, nearly dragged down by a cunning ghost masquerading through the digital world. As I sat back, the weight of the near miss settling around me, I realized the internet was an ocean teeming with more than just bargains. It was a hunting ground for phantoms waiting to strike.